because that's just in case you have things which I need to edit out of it. Okay, I think everybody's here. Yep. Okay, so welcome to How to Help Others Transmute the Karma into the Gifts of Service. I'm Nicolas, David, and of the Centre for Conscious Ascension. So we're going to talk about the soul contract reading work. So what I'd like to actually hear is from you guys who've joined, either in the chat or just talking to me, what you'd like from this webinar, because these are always a little different depending on whether you guys read the book or see me on Gaia. So it sort of sets the intention. This is sort of more of a discussion. It's not a sort of one-to-many sort of webinar you may be used to. So it's designed to meet your needs, whatever they are, okay? So as best I can, obviously, in this format. So I've been doing this work for about, how long have I been doing this? About 10 years. And this work was profoundly awakening to me when I learned it from Frank Alpa in Arizona, Phoenix in 1990. And he gave me my soul contract reading, and he explained my entire life by taking my birth name and matching it with Hebrew sounds. And in that hour, he basically explained I was to be a teacher and a writer, and all the things I've been doing since came out of that reading, and it put my entire life into context, all the strange things that happened, because I was completely lost at that stage. So it's a life-changing process, and I want to share that with you if you're interested in sharing it with others. It still amazes me, even 30 years on, how powerful it is. So that's why I do this work. So having taught it for about 25 years now. So I'd like to hear from you guys. Some of you are familiar from Facebook, but you're alive for a change. So Kelly, do you want to start? Because
I would love to start, sure. Well, I came across your video on Gaia, I think maybe in February. And I was just, it was one of those feelings that you maybe had the same experience when you, and by the way, I live in Phoenix, Arizona. So,
there you go. Back to the beginning. Yeah.
But I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. What is Nicolas talking about? So before I even had a chance to finish watching your videos, I bought your book on Amazon, and then I was like, wait, it's not going to be here for 2 more days. I can't wait. So then I ended up buying it on my iPhone or my iPad, and so I was watching your videos and reading the books because it was just, it was just speaking to me, right? Like it was just, I found my language, so to speak. And I've been doing intuitive work all my life. It's just because who I am. But the soul work, it just, like you said, it was life changing. So I did my chart, and I was like, oh, this is why this keeps happening to me.
Yep.
Well, that makes a lot of sense.
Same old stuff, or you could use a worse word than that. So.
Yeah. So once that happened to me, and it literally had to do with my karma, with the physical karma. I think a lot of times we tend to get really stuck in some of those patterns, especially if they're probably heavier. Again, I don't know. I'm obviously much newer to this, but that would be my assumption. So I was really stuck in some of those patterns and didn't understand the why. And once I literally saw it written out, it just did something in my mind. And so once I experienced that, then of course I wanted to decode everyone's soul contract.
Yep. Yeah, really nosy, don't we? So.
Exactly. So, so literally since I discovered you, and I think it must have been February, because I think when I went to look you up, it was when you held your last class. So it was like right in the middle of, as you were teaching that Yeah, so it must have been February. So in any case, I've been just, in love and obsessed with just figuring all this out. And so, that's who I am, and that's why I'm here. And I do have like a few questions here and there that I'm just like curious, would love to ask you. But that's a little about me. So.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we can get to those questions a bit later. So
right. Yeah. That's what I
time for that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Who wants to go next? You need the brave ones to show themselves. Jose, do you want to go next?
Sure. My wife and I, we came across your work about a year ago. We watched your interview with Regina Meredith on Gaia.
Yeah.
And what happened was that about a week before that, one night I had a vision while I was half asleep. I saw the Om symbol on the sky, and I felt like there was a divine presence. And behind that Om symbol, from behind the symbol, I started to see coming out different symbols, mostly geometric shapes, and they came together and they formed a tree, a golden tree in the shape of a triangle. And I heard a voice saying, "Follow the symbols." Well, I woke up from that and I didn't really know what the message could refer to, because I work with astrology, I work with archetypes, but at that time I wasn't working with any symbol system, anything new. And I told my wife, I don't know what the message is about. So 1 week after that, we watched the interview on Gaia. We bought the book right away, and then I'm in Valencia, Spain, and we bought the book, and I started to translate. We started to reading it. I started to translate it to my wife, and we decided to start decoding our soul contracts. So
started to do what?
To decoding our contracts.
Okay.
So we worked on the Spanish sounds, the Spanish letters, and we came up with the equivalency to the Spanish sounds. We did our contracts, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. We were so blown away. The two of us. It was a quite unique experience. As Gilly said, suddenly so many things had a why, a reason, an explanation, and everything we had lived up until now made total sense. So we've been interacting with our contracts, with our own contracts, for about a year, and different levels of meaning have become clearer and clearer and clearer to us. And we have talked to friends and colleagues and some clients. We are transpersonal therapists about that, and we have people who want their contracts to get decoded. So that's a point we're at right now. I don't have any specific questions. Anything and everything that will come up today will be excellent for me to keep understanding our own contracts and to understand much better how I would love to offer this to other people, because after the experience that my wife and I went through, we would like for other people to feel and to come to the same realizations, level of understanding of their lives that we are coming to since the day we started to decode it.
Okay. Yeah, it's very helpful if you're a therapist, because it usually becomes the core framework that therapists, or whatever you use, modalities you use, everyone takes that and you reach the client with this, because it gets the deepest truth as you and your wife experienced.
Right.
Basically dissolves all the ego defenses, because when you have pure truth like this, because it's the sounds of God, basically the sound of Hebrew, and the non-spirit in a non-religious sense.
Right.
Then you cut through all of the ego illusion and you get to the truth, and basically it lets go and surrenders, and then you can do the real work with somebody, because they say, okay, Jose, you've named everything, let's get on with it. So you save yourself and them a lot of time.
Exactly.
And you get on with it, you see, and you can focus your therapies once you understand the truth with someone to work through the issues which are in the chart. So basically people make excellent progress, and they usually become very long-term clients.
Right.
Because they know that you know everything about them. There's no guesswork anymore.
Exactly.
How do we deal with the issue which is in my face now? Because I know you know and I know exactly where it comes from, but how do I extract it? How do I change it? That's more the question.
Exactly. It becomes a fantastic roadmap.
Yeah, it's a really accurate roadmap for awakening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most therapist practices change radically so that it centers on this, and then all your previous experience goes into focus, using it as a focus. So, okay, what's next? How do we handle it? How do we manage it? Because a lot of stuff's happening simultaneously. It can be quite confusing for people.
Yes.
And so you can actually pick apart someone's issues and see, this comes from this part of the chart, this comes from this part. So therefore we have two separate ways of dealing with it, because it's not a combined thing. It's actually 7 different things happening at once, usually.
At once, yes.
Yeah, we can talk a bit more about how we handle that in Spanish and that later.
Okay.
It's great you figured out the Spanish. But we can talk about that.
Okay, sure.
Sarah, we just met online. Nice
Yes,
to come.
Hello.
You want to share why you're here? We're just sharing what you need from the webinar, because we built it around what you guys actually need. The way I did the webinar.
Well, I've just recently purchased your book 2 days ago, and in fact I had it on Amazon list of many lists of books I want to read, and so I'm very new to this, but I've always been fascinated by numerology and astrology for many years, but never really, only sort of dabbled with it a little bit, but never been quite satisfied with some of it. Somehow it's and really I had a spiritual awakening, what I call a spiritual awakening, probably around 2003, 2004, in quite late winter in Winchester Cathedral here in the UK. It was quite extraordinary and very emotional, very powerful. But basically this experience that happened in the cathedral, of course they all sit on top of ley lines, I think has something to do with that. It was sort of introduction to angels. Nothing, came up in front of me, but it was sort of a very strong feeling that got stronger and stronger and stronger, and I didn't know what was happening to me. And I was just visiting the cathedral with a friend. It was very quiet, very dark. There's some candles lit, very few people around. And I couldn't understand what on earth was going on with me, the strange feelings coming up. And after the altar, normally these cathedrals have 3 few little chapels right at the back. And I felt pulled to go towards one of them. And all the time this feeling getting stronger and stronger. And to the point that tears were filling up my eyes, and I don't know why. And I was perfectly happy that day, nothing emotional or anything like that. Anyway, this little chapel happened to be called the Chapel of Enchanted Angels. And there's a sort of carved screen, doors. I couldn't open it, but you can look through the screen. It's open. It's not glass or anything like that, but just beautiful carvings. And I looked up at the little ceiling up above. There's a little altar there in the chapel, and these sort of repainted medieval faces of the angels.
Sarah, can you just focus to the essence, because we've got a lot of people here.
Okay, right. Okay. Anyway, so there, I just sort of literally, I just wept, and then it carried on to another shop I went to, which is a spiritual shop, sort of selling cards and gifts and that sort of thing. And it carried on from there. And this book, The Angels, just sprung out at me. And the guy who owned the shop, he came up to me and he said, "Look, can I help you?" And he sensed that something happened to me. And it sort of went from there, really. So eventually I bought a book on angels, and it went from there. And I had this hunger for knowledge, this huge hunger for knowledge. And ever since then, it's carried on. And even to how I met my partner a few years ago. So we have a similar interest. And so that's, yeah. So it's a sort of ongoing sort of exploring of the knowledge. And yeah, it's just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
All right. Thank you. It sounds like a fast and great awakening.
Yes, it was incredible. I was absolutely worn out. I was so worn out, and it kept going on for a number of days. So when I began to realise what had happened, and I felt it was just what I call pure love, just surrounded by pure love. That's the only way I can describe it. I've never felt anything like it before or since. And it was their way of saying, "Come on, Sarah, wake up."
Okay. Who else would like to introduce themselves and say why they're here, what they need from this? You can just switch on. Okay, Ileana.
Yes, hi everybody.
Yeah.
I've watched a few of the webinars recorded, but this is my first time joining live.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so what's brought you here today live?
I'm just fascinated by the whole process and the insights that you're able to gain and how it kind of ties everything together.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping you'll pick me as one of the testers.
We'll see. Where are you based?
I'm in Miami, Florida, in the United States.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Marianne, do you want to introduce yourself? You have to unmute on the left, bottom left. That's yeah.
Yeah.
It's up. Can hear you.
Hi. Yeah, I'm in London. I found this system last year on a retreat with somebody else, and it explained just so much about why. The dynamics of my life, and I felt it was very helpful to learn to help people understand the dynamics of their lives as well. Really, it's the sort of thing I'm quite good at working with anyway. And my own issue is that I've got 6s all the way down the middle of my chart, so I'm always wanting to explore things. I've got 3 lots of 6s, and it means that I get just distracted, really, going off on little tangents and exploring lots of things, but not really anchoring anything properly. So I had to try and work out how to do it for myself. And I use the name Marianne, but it's not my given name, and that actually is an overlay which adds to my chart and hopefully gives me a bit more anchoring of my spiritual purpose, which my original name didn't. So I just find it fascinating, really, and I think it's a great tool for helping other people who are stuck with issues in different ways in their life, understanding. It's a time of people really taking it on, so it's invaluable.
Okay, thank you.
I can't stay the whole time, actually. I have to go about 6:15 for something, but I'll listen to the rest of it after.
Yeah, I'll be sending a video out, so you'll get the rest of it later.
Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else want to introduce themselves, even with the microphone? Oh, I've got Felicia here. Felicia said, I did the self-contracting coaching session. This is in the chat here. It was revealed I'm to teach. I think this session will help further develop my skills in coaching. Okay, thank you, Felicia. Anyone else want to introduce themselves on the chat, or just even switch your mic on without the camera if you feel a little shy? Don't have to if you don't want. Just so I get a good feel for where you guys are. All right. Okay, I'm going to start then. No one else has come up here. I'm going to a little presentation here. So feel free to ask questions at any time. This is pretty fluid, what we're doing here. This is to meet your different needs here. I'm going to share the screen now. So you guys are going to go to the right. You're going to see the little, you'll see the webcams go small to the right. Okay, and if you've got a small screen, then you can just do a little, if you roll your mouse at the bottom or the top, you can find little chevrons to scroll up and down, okay? So this work, this training is more about how do you help others transmute their karma into the gifts of service. Most people, they turn away. I used to. They turn away from the biggest karmic challenges they face in their lives. It's just too painful for the ego to actually feel it. The ego is very pain averse. And if the pain gets strong enough, or there for long enough, they may try and face it, okay? But most people are going around in the dark. It's like driving a car without any headlights, trying to get to a specific destination in life. And because they lack the spiritual map, as Jose was saying. People lack the spiritual map of what's going on. I lacked this map before 1990. I had no idea. I was very lost, bouncing off the walls, really. And what we're going to talk about is how we can use the soul contract reading work to identify people's core karmic patterns and help them transmute them and give them processes and recommendations to transmute it so they can move forward. Because most people avoid the karma because it's like, oh, I don't want to deal with that disempowerment or that abuse or that unworthiness or lack of trust. But actually, at the same time, they're asking, well, what's my gift? Light workers are asking, what's my purpose? What's my gift of service? And so the last place they expect to find it is in the most painful part of their lives. So our actual karmic patterns contain the gift we're here to bring to the world, okay? So what happens here is that the very thing we are trying to avoid contains our spiritual gift of service. And initially in life, by the law of attraction, we create everything we don't like, because that's actually what's programmed into us. That's what our soul contract, which is programmed into our DNA and our energy fields. It's actually sending it out to the matrix. It's sending it out to the reality, and the reality is rearranging around what's coming off us invisibly. And it's invisibly how we feel unconsciously, usually, and what we're thinking, and what our subconscious thoughts are. But with the law of attraction, there's a second law they don't tell you about much, which is called the law of opposites. So initially in life, you get everything you don't want. So if you were to come here to come into your power, to be in your power to catalyze people, you would come in very disempowered. So that you feel, oh, I don't like this disempowerment, I don't like this abuse or whatever's going on in childhood. We tend to want to move to the opposite position of that. And the point of that is that by coming in with an experience of disempowerment in life, the spiritual gift of service, if you turn into the disempowerment and transmute it with consciousness and the right healing tools, is to become empowered and to go from the journey of being disempowered here and having the visceral journey, emotional journey of going to empowerment. And the soul wants to go from one polarity, a negative polarity, to a positive polarity. And in doing that, if this is your karma here, you have karma here. If you consciously move using the contract step by step, move towards coming into empowerment, you then claim your spiritual gift of service. And because you've had to work at it, you value it, and you'll usually use it properly if you've got this far. And that gift is to be shared with the world. So by turning into our karma, we claim our gifts of service. And this is what we teach in the training, how to identify what the gifts of service are, the karma, and how to work through them especially. Okay. So my gifts, for example, I had a very disempowering childhood, but that was so I could come into my power eventually and to catalyze others to wake up. And I felt a great, also the other major karmic pattern was, the first one was a 9, for those of you who read the book. And the other karmic patterns are 3, which is feeling unworthy to be seen, to be loved. And I've been overcoming that to actually be worthy to teach and write that book. So it's been a long journey for me, because I used to be very quiet. But now I won't shut up. So here. So you guys are potentially the answer to that search for people who want to claim the gift of service and overcome their karma. Because there's only a few hundred practitioners in the world, scattered all over the world. I don't know, maybe 400 or 500. We've been training people since 1994, but it's people like you, Gelly, who get very drawn to the work, people who really want to make a difference. It's very black and white, this where people are really magnetically drawn to it, who want to do this work. And it's either that or they're not interested at all. It's the way it tends to work with this stuff. Because you've had the training in the past, if you're drawn to this. So training as a soul contract reader enables you to decode the secrets of the blueprint of life for spiritual seekers, which, these 2 or 3% of the population, that's a lot of people, quite a few 100 million. Their secret of their life is hidden in their birth name, and that creates their reality in each moment. And delivering this gift, the spiritual map of life, empowers them to overcome the karma, express their talents, achieve their goals, and manifest their soul or life purpose. And most people get stuck down here in their karma and don't get too far. But what this does is that, as a lot of you experience once you read the book and worked out your chart, it basically gives you the big picture of everything that's meant to happen, and it also shows you how to get there. So the book that some of you read is based upon the training manual, but there are some parts that I've taken out which are a bit contentious and as a book, but you learn them in the training. So basically the training enables you to turn all that information into a live living being, a live energy that you transmit to clients, and you learn to transmit the bit they need to hear in that moment so they can make a shift in their life. So it's sort of like a conversation with your higher self, really, the way the training works. That's what we teach you to do. So for some people watching this who may not be familiar with the work fully later, I'm going to explain how it works. So bear with me, you guys have read the book. So we basically use ancient Hebrew. We use 22 ancient Hebrew sounds in the soul contract reading work. And those Hebrew sounds come out of the movement of Great Spirit or God or whatever you want to call higher intelligence. And we match those 22 vibrations to the sound of someone's name in whatever language it is, Spanish, English, whatever. And then we decode them on the Star of David here. And we basically work out there's two primary triangles. There's a physical triangle and a spiritual triangle. And the physical triangle represents the creation of our personality, which is brand new each lifetime. Our souls are eternal, but each of us is brand new as a personality this lifetime. We have not existed before. Our soul has, with other personalities, but we have access to the soul's previous experience at times as we awaken. And the physical triangle here basically is the formation of our personality and our interface with the outer world. And what happens is that we spend the first 35 years, first 5 cycles of 7 years, getting up and running in life with relationships and jobs, careers, getting established. And then between 35 and 42, the 6th cycle of 7 years or earlier, what happens is that the spiritual triangle becomes more predominant. It's always running, but it's where we get itchy. I think I was sitting in a glass box in the city in London, a financial job. And at 37, I left that job. It was a very good job because I was searching for the real meaning of my life. I'd be doing this work part-time in the weekends and stuff like that, and flying to America a couple of times a year to learn more about this work in healing. But basically, we get switched on and people have a spiritual awakening or midlife crisis, whatever you want to call it, and we search for our true meaning of why we're really here, why we're alive. That's why people leave jobs, relationships, careers, move countries, etc. And within each of these triangles, these 3 aspects is karma, talents, and goals. And as we said earlier, karma is the key thing. Karma is a set of unresolved past life issues that creates the negative context of our life. And we're meant to actually turn into that and transmute it into our gifts, which only very few people do. Our talents down here, if they're well matched, they overcome the karma, so we bring our gifts to light. And as the talents get stronger, that enables us to get to our goals. These are our dreams. This is what gets us out of bed in the morning. One of my goals is to share knowledge. So I love doing these webinars and teaching. It's what I live for. So this is with a physical orientation. So we work through the karma, talents get stronger, goals get stronger. And then you have the spiritual triangle, which activates especially when you're over 35 or earlier. Younger people, it's activating in their teens or earlier. And the spiritual karma is opening to the gateway of your gift, your spiritual gift, what you're here to deliver spiritually. And the spiritual talents helps you overcome that, the karma, so it becomes a gift. Then that helps you move to the spiritual goal. And the blending of all 6 of these, as you work through them, what happens here, this is time this way, and this is a percentage complete. Each of these has these little diagram. You're actually progressively moving through this. And if you can explain to a client consciously what they need to do in each one, their life will completely change and they will get there a lot quicker. They'll no longer be wasting 80% of their effort on stuff which doesn't matter. It'll be going to the 20% of things which do matter. Okay, so as you work through each of these patterns, the soul destiny or the life purpose starts to manifest in stages. So people get to that deep place inside that they've been searching for their whole life. They're really important. They know there's something really important they're here to do, and they know no one's really been able to tell them. And this work enables you to tell them that answer and guide them to getting to it. Most people don't reach that fulfilling place because there's too much stuff here to work through, and they don't even know what it is. Okay, so I'll show you how that works. Okay, Gelly, I'm getting to do your chart. You up for that? Yeah. Are you up to bearing your soul here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so what's the ethnic origin of your name, just so I know?
I was born in Russia.
Okay. Do you have a Cyrillic birth certificate?
I do, yeah, I do. So I can give you the name that do you want me to type it into the chat box?
No, I would need to see the Cyrillic. Okay.
Oh, you would need to see, oh, I see. You actually need to see the Cyrillic. I don't, it's probably at my mom's house.
So you don't have the Cyrillic. Okay.
But the sounds, and that was actually going to be one of my questions to you, because the sounds from Russian to English are they're almost identical.
Yeah, but the anglicized Russian version is not exactly correct. That's why we go from the Cyrillic, because that's...
Okay, well, I know how to spell it in Cyrillic, but do you want me to write it out for you and show it to you?
Can you type it out in Cyrillic for me?
I don't know if I can type it out because I don't have Cyrillic on my computer, but I can handwrite it. If you need to see the Cyrillic letters, is that what you...
see the Cyrillic, then we can do it. I'll get my Russian dictionary. Yeah.
Okay, well, let me I'll write it out for you.
Well, if you
Unless you know how I can type it in Cyrillic into the chat box.
What we can do is get you to share your screen. If you can put it on your computer in Cyrillic somehow.
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely.
So this is how we do Spanish, Jose, as well. We basically, this is getting a little more complex. Basically, we're turning whatever non-English language we use into written English as it's pronounced to then convert it into Hebrew sounds, because there's a correlation between the Hebrew. I'll find it here for you. Hang on, I'll show you. For those guys who haven't seen have not seen the book.
So, Dave or Nicolas, let me know does this work, or do you want me to somehow figure out how to?
Let me just get it up here.
And it's backwards. I think you're seeing it backwards. But it's like right here. That's Gelena Yusefovna Akindlit.
Okay, hang on. Just keep it there. I have to keep my software out. I should be okay with that. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to type this in. So just a second. How long have you been in America?
About 29 years.
Okay. Right. Okay, so let me just work out the Russian here.
You got it?
No, keep it up. I need to see it. Yeah, don't take that down. I'm translating it into the correct form now. So.
Awesome.
Okay. What's the third one? Is that an L? Is it?
This first one? Yeah, that's an L. Yep, the third letter is an L.
Yeah, my Cyrillic's not great, so okay, and then another E. What's the one at the end? Is that a double E, is it?
No, it's, well,
The fifth one. What's the fifth one there?
N.
In Gilina.
Yep, there you go. Yep, Giliana.
Giliana. Okay, and then the middle one?
Okay, so the first letter is U.
Okay, so you want just say the word for me so I can hear it?
Yuzefovna.
Okay. Okay, and then is that a Z or an S, the second
Z.
letter?
Z.
Z, okay. It's a little fuzzy here. So, okay, Z, E, Yuzef,
F. F.
S and F. Okay. Okay. Then A, and then,
Yep, A-S.
then
And
a
then-
V, a V,
Yep, a V.
then an NA,
Yeah, and then N.
then A.
Yuzef. Yeah,
Yuzefina.
Yuzefovna. So
Zevavna, okay? Yep.
VNA. We got it. Okay.
And the surname there, what's that?
Okay. Eichenblit. So it's A
Is that a K?
H or the H sound.
A-H,
E
E,
N
N,
B
E,
L.
L, what's the last one?
Yeah, and then E, which I use an I for it in English.
That'd be a double E, then a T.
Yeah, and then it's E. Oh, it's a double E. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, this is why you can't use the translated Russian normally. Ahenblit, is that right?
Yep, Eichenblit.
Ahenblit. So Gelena Uzfavna. I got that right?
Yuzefovna.
Fav.
Yeah, Yuzefovna.
Yuzefavna.
There you go. Yep.
Got it. All right. I won't put your birth date in. So that's fine. Okay. And, all right. So I'll show you what I'm doing here. Just a sec. I just need you to see Gully's screen there. So I had it. I'm going to share my screen now, and then I'm going to show you. We're using the self-contract software we use in the training here. We don't teach like Russian or Spanish phonetics in the first training. It's a separate training because you've got to understand basically how the system works first before you can do that. But we do teach that, so that's for you, especially Jose. Okay, so we're using this thing called, we have the self-contract software here, and basically I put Kelly's current name here. I put the surname first because that's how it appears on a Russian birth certificate. And it's been converted into written English to match the Cyrillic. Okay, but you don't have to worry about it more than that, but that's just what I've done. Okay, right, so and we normally put a birth date in because it's a public video, I won't put that in there. And this is the consent date. Okay, so we entered all this information. Look okay, Kelly?
Yeah. No, looks good.
Okay, so on the software, this is web-based software. Okay, you can use on any device, which is what we use, practitioners use, and book readers use. We run the chart. We get the name coming out here. So I will explain how we get the numbers for those who are not so familiar with it. So basically, we take the name in written English as it's pronounced, this is Russian here, and the system matches it to 22 different phonetic Hebrew sounds, like an AH is a single sound in Hebrew. Are you Jewish, Kelly?
I am Jewish, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we match it to 22 of the Hebrew sounds here. We're using this map I'll show you. Just got to find it. Here it is here. We map from Hebrew or English into Hebrew. That's what we do. I'll just find it for you. Okay. So we'll use this map here, which is in the book, but this is the manual for the training. So basically what we've done is this is the English alphabet on the left, and these are the equivalent Hebrew sounds and numbers which go with it. So we correlate direct from English sounds to Hebrew sounds. Okay, that's what we've done here. That's how the system works. And some of the sounds are duplicated, like Vuv in Hebrew is for U, V, O, O, and W. So that's how you get 22 Hebrew sounds matching 26 English letters. And in Gelly's case, because she has an AH at the beginning, if you look at this, here you see this AH here, that's one Hebrew sound, that's called a combination letter. What the system does basically is it says, there's an AH there, therefore we're going to make it a hey in Hebrew, or a 5, rather than the separate A and H here. That's why you see that on the system. So it checks for all these combination letters here first, and they take precedence over these letters here. That's just so you know what's going on.
David, can I ask you a question about the AH specifically? Because the AH, if it turns into the sound heh, then if I were to actually pronounce it in Hebrew, I wouldn't say the A, right? I would just say, I mean, in my mind, that's what I'm thinking, but maybe that's wrong.
No, that's correct. You just say hey.
So, but I'm losing the ah sound, and that's how.
Well, basically what we're doing is this Hebrew has a good range of tolerance, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the range of tolerance of hey covers the ah sound, okay? The way the system works, okay?
Okay, thank you. That was one of my questions, like if I'm losing the ah sound, okay.
Yeah, so there's enough room for maneuver to handle it in Hebrew.
Okay.
So without getting too complicated, so what we do basically is we get all these Hebrew numbers which are inherent within the Hebrew. This is the major differentiation, if you're familiar with conventional numerology, is that in that you assign numbers to the Roman alphabet, whereas here the numbers are inherent within Hebrew, so it's a completely different system. So what we're dealing with is the sounds of God, basically. Hebrew is one of the 5 sacred languages that created creation, because it's all about sound. That's how this reality in this universe was created. So this is why it's very pure. This is why the truth is so powerful, as some of you discovered, because you're dealing with the pure sounds of creation of God with the system. There's no translation. There's no reduction of the consciousness of this work at all. Okay. So what we do is we analyze these numbers on the Star of David by allocating them here. The first 6 go around the star. We start at physical karma. 5 goes here. There's a 5. Another 5. Cross those 2 guys off. A 14. A 2. A 12. A 5. So we've done the first 5. First 6. Then we just keep looping around till we use it all up. And we get all the numbers allocated. Then we add them up. So the total in, say, spiritual karma is 21 here. And then there's always 2 aspects in a given, 2 numbers on a given aspect. So 21's there. And so the next number here is the reduction of this one. So we just go 2 plus 1 is 3. In the case of, say, the total is 27, because we've only got 22 Hebrew letters we use and 22 meanings from the soul of Moses, we have to reduce the first number between 1 and 22. So we go 2 plus 7 is 9. Then we go, I'm just going to clear my throat, hang on. Sorry about that. So we get a 9 there, but 9 won't reduce anymore, so we get another 9. 9 plus nothing is another 9, so we get what's got a double letter. There's a range of movement here in terms of experience between a pure 21 and a pure 3. In any given moment, you're on this continuum, Kelly. Mm-hmm. But up here, it's the soul saying, I only want you to work on 9s only. There's not such a wide range of experience. So this means that some parts of your chart where these numbers are wide, there's a wider range of experience. Some parts are more rigid, like here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you figure out all the other numbers accordingly. We take the physical numbers, place them on the top half of this table. spiritual numbers, place them on the bottom half, and then we total up the two columns to get the 73 and the 28. 7 plus 3 is 10, 2 plus 8 equals 10, take the smallest number, 1 plus 0 is 1, and we pop the soul destiny in the middle. And these channel symbols that my teacher Frank Alper brought through basically are like portals. For those of you who are sensitive, which is probably most of you, you'll feel the energy come off this. So I'll do a very brief reading for you, Kelly. So maybe you ask me the key question you have about your life. We'll start with that because you've already done the chart. So I'll see if we can answer your key question.
Well, yeah, but my chart was actually completely different because first off, I didn't know that my last name had to come first because that's how it is on the birth certificate.
Yeah.
And also I didn't have the, the double E, and I mean, it was very different.
You can still ask me your important question.
Yeah, no, but my important question, gosh, I wasn't prepared for a question. I'm just amazed at what you just did. So I'm still processing that. My important question, well, what's interesting, so maybe I can ask you this. So even though I didn't do my chart right, because you just showed me, I still felt like I resonated with a lot of it. And I mean, really resonated to where it was life-changing for me. So
it'll still resonate, but this is just going the whole way here. You might have got 60-70% of what you needed to hear at that time, but now you're going to get the rest.
Yeah, so I don't know what to ask. I mean, I would just love to, just tell me, what do you see? I want to know what you see, because me looking at this, now being a little familiar with the numbers, as I've been doing this, just playing with it for the few months. Honestly, I'm thinking in my head, but I want to hear it from you. That's what's most interesting to me.
All right. So I'll go through it briefly. So in physical karma, this is 7. So are you indecisive, Gelly, or were you indecisive?
Probably.
Can I ask how old you are now? I see we are in the cycle here.
I'm 38.
Okay. So you've definitely progressed into this spiritual side by the sounds of it. That's a bit I want to know. So the lesson of the 7 is to learn to heal the wounded heart, which may have come from your father, is that the case? Or lack of father, or the masculine energy mistreating you, or is absent, or both. It's about healing the wounded heart so the inner child can show her true self to the world and dropping the facade that she puts on. So you become one person. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. On point.
Okay. So so that your heart opens and draws all sorts of like-minded people to you. Okay. 7s are about building networks of like-minded people and facilitating those networks. So what do you do, Gelly?
I run a very large networking organization here in Phoenix, and I bring people together on a daily basis.
Isn't that interesting?
Oh, so interesting.
Yeah. So what sort of thing, what sort of people? Spiritual people, ordinary people, or something?
Well, so what I've been doing for the last 11 years is it's all business related. So they're entrepreneurs, professionals, business owners. And the more I've been stepping in, so at 32, I went through, at 34, I left my ex-husband now. I was with him for 17 years. And after I left him, I started getting a lot more into the spiritual work. Well, I've always been that way, but when I was with him, he pulled my energy back. He didn't like me being spiritual. So as soon as he left my life, I went full force into it. And now that I'm in this full mode of doing spiritual work, I'm attracting all sorts of people in the spiritual realm. And they're literally asking me to do the same type of work that I've done in the networking sphere. I connect people. It's just so natural for me to connect people, to guide them to where they need to be. Like I said, a lot of this is just intuitive. So, they say, okay, here's the kind of healing that they need. And they will say, well, where do I go to do that? And to me, I'm like, how do you not know? It's easy. You Google it, but they don't know. And they literally need me to tell them, go to this address on this date. They're going to have a breathwork ceremony. Right. So, but that's what I've been doing in networking for 11 years. And now they're in the spiritual space. So it's just people. That doesn't matter what where they're, what they do or what they're seeking, they find me and they're seeking some kind of guidance, and then I put them in that direction.
Okay. Well, 7, as you heal your own heart, how's that going?
Well, it's a constant process that's going, you know?
And the divorcing of your husband, you initiated the divorce?
Yes.
Yeah, this is what it means, this is claiming your power back with the masculine. This is actually how you come into your power. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the 10-1 here, similar energy, is about using spiritual energies, the balanced male-female aspects of God, in pure service to others. So you're here to serve spiritually. So the spiritual network is right up your street. Okay. It's to serve as the main reason you're alive, really, with spiritual energies, and to disseminate healing and knowledge. And the 11-2 here is about building your own unique body of knowledge. Like this, the structure, things which are resonant to you, and throwing the things you don't want, the garbage. And then developing emotional resiliency to support others to absorb the structure. Because most people, when they wake up, are a bit lost, because suddenly life's changed and all the things they thought were important are irrelevant. And they say, well, now what?
Right. Exactly. Now, and where do I go? And who do I talk to? They talk to me for 1 hour and they're like, and now what? Yeah.
And so basically it's about a heart open network to serve others, to give them structure and support to awaken. So you're on the right track. So let's look at the spiritual karma, the other gift. So the gift here is to open your heart and use that magnetism of the heart to build your network. So the more healing you do on your own wound, especially with the masculine, the bigger your business will get, just naturally. So doing the inner work is the key to the outer work in the world, because they're one and the same thing for spiritual seekers. Who's blocked internally, that'll block the business and maybe apparent in the business first. So you need to go and work on yourself, and then the business will open up. So the spiritual karma here, this is saying that life has been very hard at times. You had to endure a lot of hardship, and to overcome that, to become strong. So how's that turned out? I mean, you're Russian for starters. That's a pretty tough place to be born.
Absolutely. Yes, life has been very, very challenging. But I mean, I feel like I've overcome a lot of my challenges, and that's why it actually allows me to connect with so many different types of people on so many different levels, because that's usually where we humans connect, is on our challenges and the things that we're, going through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's, in the chart that I did for myself, which had wrong numbers, it had severe disempowerment in there, and that felt so right to me as well.
Well, you've got it here. You've got it here as well. You've got disempowerment here, just it's in a different place.
Right, and I see that. I see the numbers, and that I felt was very, because my whole life I've been dealing with disempowerment from childhood, and so being able to turn that around and actually come into my strengths. And I'm not as familiar with 21-3. I'll have to look at it after the call, but
it basically means becoming very strong by enduring and overcoming big hardships, okay, and then getting to the point where you decide, I want to do it the easy way, but you're doing it the easy way from a place of strength. Okay, it's the divine mother energy. Have you got any kids?
I do, yes.
Yeah, well, think about how much work you had to put into giving birth to those kids. So that's the strength of the mother, to spend a couple of days giving birth. We kill most of us men doing that. But that's the strength of the feminine, of the mother energy, divine mother. So it's having that strength and taking it out in the world, but in the end doing it the easy way, but from a place of strength. And the 3 is overcoming any unworthiness to be loved, which would come from any disempowerment by the masculine, pulling out this big plug of unworthiness. So you open up this internal canal and bring the deep wisdom of the soul out in the world as a teacher and a communicator. So you're here to be a teacher communicator here with others, a leader, okay? That's what that's about. So that's the other gift, teaching deep soul wisdom. And that's why you're attracted to this work as well, for the structure of 11-2s, look for the absolute structure of truth. Most people interested in this work have 11-2s and 5s and all 5s, which is pure psychic energy of spirit, very powerful spiritual energy. So basically, you look for the deepest truths, don't you? And you want to know how it really works. And
100%. Yeah.
and you know when it's not, someone hasn't told you the whole thing, you're just looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what draws people to this work. Okay. And the 15-6 here is about, the 15 is about going around in circles, trying things on to find out what's right for you. And then finding out, oh, this is not quite right, and moving on to something else till you find the right thing. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Being a bit restless when you were younger, trying to find the right place?
Yeah, I mean, just, I'm always moving. Yeah. I'm always moving. And when I find something that's true and resonate, then I'm like, oh, this is it. But otherwise, I keep moving. I'm always moving.
Yeah, so this is about finding the right place where you feel settled and you feel home in the symbolic stomach. And the 6 is the focused businesswoman and creativity, being focused and getting things done. That's what that's about. And the 9 here is the strongest energy. This is the dragon energy. This is in goals. So this is saying a lot of disempowerment. So your dragon was shackled and pinned down or in a cage, so you had to break free and claim your power. Mm-hmm. And that was probably childhood plus marriage, I'd say, the way this chart's. Yeah. Okay. And you need to have need to do a lot of healing around the masculine. So you need to have men who are very strong around you in integrity. Okay. Where
do they exist?
They do exist, but we probably have to have another conversation about that. There are places, they do exist. Okay. You can find them, but you need men in integrity who are strong, otherwise your dragon will just have them for breakfast, basically, because they're not strong enough. You won't feel safe because they can't hold the line with you.
Yep.
So, sound about right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the blending of all 6 produces the soul destiny, this 10-1, and the 10 is about coming into full soul consciousness, the balanced male-female aspects of God, disseminating healing and knowledge to the world. So basically it's about reaching maximum consciousness, potentially enlightenment. Pretty challenging to get there, but you got a better chance today than most people, than in the past, say. But it's about being very conscious, being in integrity, being of great service. So there you go. That's your life, Kelly. How's that sound?
I love it. It sounds incredible. And if you don't mind, just one quick question. This was incredible, but I don't want to waste time talking about how incredible this was, so thank you. But so in the number 8, I heavily also resonate with the number 8. And that was in my, in the one that I didn't quite do right. And I don't see any 8s in here, but that one is all about the clairvoyance and the amoeba. And when I read that, I was like, oh my God, that's just so me. But I don't see that anywhere here, but I was really resonating with that. Like, what would your thoughts be on that?
It'll probably be involved in one of your other names, like the current name you have.
Got it, okay.
Which is what's called an overlay name. It's like a layer of icing on this birth chart. Mm-hmm. Basically what we do with the first level of the training, we just teach you how to do these birth charts because there's enough complexity in that. But then in level 2, we talk about overlay names, different names you've used, your relationships. We basically look at all the underlying hidden energy dynamics that create our relationships and impact. And we'll probably find one of these in maybe your current name. Okay. So that's another layer, as a quantum leap in terms of understanding, but that's what people are most interested in after you've told them the truth of their life, they want to say, well, what about my family and relationships? And how do I work with that? That's what we do at level 2. So that'll be in there. So we're multi-layered. It's not just the birth name, it's the other names we have and people we're close to, how they impact us. So it's actually a whole energetic constellation of energy, which a system can actually analyze and explain why things are happening, but then you can come up with solutions. Well, this stuff's happening, I don't like it, what do I do? So you can then change the nature of the way you relate, or the clients relate with the system in a very focused way, which will work eventually, provided the client does the right thing with the information. Okay, and they can say, well, you're definitely going to divorce. That's not going to work, that relationship, because of this, this, and this. And the other ones, well, that's worth hanging in there because if you can work on these issues, you've got some chance of breaking through. Okay, rather than most people struggling and not really knowing whether it's worth it or not, but often usually trying anyway. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing.
Incredible. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for bearing with me with a bit of Russian there. So, any questions, anybody, based upon that, before we go on? You can put it in the chat, or just switch your microphone and ask me. Up to you guys. Before I say any more. Thank you for bearing your soul, Gelly. That was very brave of you. No questions?
I do it on the daily.
What's that?
I said I do it on the daily. Share my soul. That's what I do.
Yeah, well, what happens when you share your soul? All this stuff comes back to you. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay. So, how's that going to help you? We said some of this already, but as a facilitator or a therapist, or just doing a consultant, we have business consultants use this work. The spiritual map of people's lives gives you an immediate and profound understanding of their issues. I mean, I'll know more about each of you if I want to do your chart than your mother would immediately just by looking at the chart. Okay, and you can accurately guide people, as I was saying to Jose, through their work. It builds a lot of trust with clients, because once you dismantle the ego with pure truth, then you can actually do some serious work with people rather than having to struggle with the damn thing all the time. All right, and it produces faster and better results with clients, because but you're both aligned to the truth, and they just want to get on with it if they want to work with it, if they got to this stage. Okay. Paul's asked a question here. Paul said, for male names that have a suffix, the third, junior, and senior, do you spell these out when translating to Hebrew? Yes, you do. You just have the words the third, or junior, or senior. You'd have it written down as you say it. Okay? So it'll be the second. Okay? All right. And then you just have it at the end of the name. You have it exactly as it's written on the birth certificate. Okay? All right. So, a bit more here. So what happens on the training? It's 5 days on Zoom like this, because it's global. And we spend 3 days using your friends and family, their names, in whatever language it's in, and we do readings on them. And we look at the manual, and we look at the readings. The manual lays out all the interpretations, like in the book, but it's a bit more compact. Let's show you. It just shows you. I'll have to go through here. Basically, it lays out all the information on every letter, similar to the book. Okay. And what we do then is that we basically show why your mother or father or ex-husband does what they do. And you'll talk about them, and so the transmission of me engaging with each of you who come on the training will transmit to the body. It will activate the energy of each of the 22 numbers in your DNA and your energy fields. So with this work, it's not about learning it and memorizing it. It's about becoming it. That's what it's about. The best way I can explain it. It's taken a long time, 25 years, to figure out how to teach it. But we worked out, Almira Ariel Hilaire, who developed it with me, my ex-wife and ex-business partner, we've figured out it has to be bodily transmission. So it's a bodily transmission activation. So you spend 3 days immersed in the 22 numbers with all the different names of friends and family of everybody. And then we teach you how to hold space to deliver this profound truth intuitively to each other. You practice giving readings to each other. The amazing thing is that people give really great readings first time out because they have become the work. And people surprise themselves at how good they are. Okay, because we're feeding their mind with stuff, but what's really happening is just because they pay the money, they want to hear something, and they want a stack of paper they paid for, the manuals. But actually, we immerse them in the energy and they become it, and then it just comes out of them. That's actually how it works. So you spend 2 days practicing and delivering readings, basically. So you become the work, and it's provided you provided you practice enough with it, it embeds permanently, because you've got to keep the transmission going, because essentially you've got your higher self and the client's higher self meeting, and their higher self is coming via your higher self to tell their personality, human personality, very specific messages within the framework of this work that they need to hear at this time. So we teach you how to discern, how to, through all the interpretations, because there are a lot of them, but which ones are important to talk about in that moment for that individual, what's going to take them to their next step in spiritual growth. So we teach you how to use your channel, how to unlock that, how to trust, and how to work with the guidance team, high-dimensional guidance team you each have, who are actually guiding the process. So what comes out of people's mouths is pretty amazing, and people get some quite profound readings, even if they've already had them, because each practitioner sees it a little differently. So that's how we train you. So yeah, you're learning experience.
I have a question, David.
Ilana,
David.
yeah.
So does that mean that you're basically transmitting what is most relevant for them to hear at that moment?
In that moment in their life, yeah.
Yeah. Does that mean that if you go back and do another reading in a year or
It'll
2
be
years,
completely different.
like okay?
And clients come back, they'll say, how do I say it? Ileana?
Yeah, it's Ileana, but I usually just say Ileana because it's easier for
Yeah.
people.
So you'll give a different reading a year on because I have a different set of questions.
Interesting.
So it's different every time. And people often come back for refreshers every couple of years. Well, this has happened, they'll say, Ileana, now what? And you say, well, then you present something different from the interpretation because this is triggering now. And so they go, oh, okay, what do I do about that? And you explain to them because we give recommendations. So basically, they have spiritual checkups, people, and you can help them move forward from wherever they are. So you're placing the reading in the context of what they're presenting to you in the moment. Okay, and that's what we teach you to do, how to engage with someone, something we can't teach in the book. How do you engage with where that individual is right now, with what's manifesting in their life, and how do you move them forward from that point, no matter how challenging it is? How can you take the next step forward, which is the power of this work. And because from the first time you do it, if they've taken those steps, they realize this actually worked, they'll come back for more. Now what do I do?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why you call it a map, because you're showing them where they are.
Yeah, you're showing them where they are, and you're showing them which direction the soul wants them to go, and actually how to get there. Here are the tools to get there.
Nice. Thank you. Very interesting.
That's what we do here, and how to use your own tools if you've got other tools, how to get there. So, yes, it's direct experiential learning with bodily transmission, and basically we support you through. We have a very active peer-to-peer Facebook support group for all practitioners throughout the world. Plus, we do masterclasses as well. And there's 3 levels of the training as well. There's this level I'm talking about, which is just birth charts. Second level is relationships and overlay names and optimizing names to maximize someone's potential in life. And the third level is business names, how to optimize website, brand names, legal names. So because a lot of client people are running their own businesses, so how they can make their businesses as attractive as possible to the right niche of customers, and how to actually work dynamics in the workplace, how to optimize those dynamics. But the other reason for the third level is that there are 3 transmissions of the work, and we discovered if you get 3 transmissions, what the guys by the end of the third one find is they actually don't need the manual because they've become it fully. It just comes through them when they give readings. That's the most common comment I get. So we figured out it's a magic number 3, but there needs 3 transmissions to be fully activated. Obviously, you can do lots of good stuff with the first 2 levels, but the third one really completes it for most practitioners. Okay, that's why there's 3 levels. We split it up that way deliberately, because it takes time to move up the frequencies of each level. So let's see what else I wanted to say here. Yeah. So what do your clients get? Well, they get a deep feeling of peace because they've heard the truth. I mean, some of you experienced that just from reading the book. And they realize it's explained everything. And the feeling of relief that actually my life hasn't gone completely wrong. There actually is an order. I had all these. There's actually meaning to all the disparate experiences. And if someone's felt like a victim of life, which I felt like a victim of life, I had those 9s like you, Gilly. enables them to take charge and step forward and own their life and get on with it, which most people don't do because they don't realize that there's a way forward. They feel stuck by their current patterns. So it's very empowering, this work. When we used to record these on cassette tapes a long time ago, some people would say, I worn the tape out, Nicolas, because I've been listening to it so much. And do you have a backup? So, well, sorry, we don't. But now we make MP3s, so it's not a problem. But that's what people used to do. We discovered they listened to it a lot because they wanted to hear more and more layers of it. And usually what happens is a client will hear about 15 to 20% of what you actually say. When they listen to it again, they'll hear a completely different reading because they're ready to hear the next layer of it. Because it's a very compressed transmission, because you're transmitting higher consciousness when you do the reading. That's why we always record them. What else? Yes, so you're basically giving them their spiritual map of life, specific targeted recommendations for where they are, as we discussed, Ilana, and you're aligning them to this soul life purpose, because most people, their purpose is over here. They're actually sort of heading randomly over here, which is why life isn't working. So you're bringing them into alignment. And when you flow in alignment with your purpose, life opens and flows a lot more. Okay? And you touch their inner being very deeply because someone's really said the truth for the first time. It creates a deep trust and connection. And now people will go very deep in the work. And you'll go very deep as a practitioner when you sort of transmit this truth. It's still my favorite thing to give readings even 30 years on. So, any questions so far on that? No? Okay. So, I think I've said this really. Yeah, you give readings in the group. You should be able to deliver them reasonably well after the group with some practice. The main thing really is just to prepare the reading, prepare the transmission. A lot of people want to sort of read the manual and try and remember it all, but actually the simplest way is just to prepare the reading, because every time you prepare a reading, the energy transmits through you and you become it more. So I just say to people, just prepare the reading and you'll learn that way. It's much faster. And they find out that actually it does work. And after a while, they sort of get enough momentum and they're ready to go with the whole thing. Okay. So if you want to join me and try this experience out, the next one is the 10th and 14th of October on Zoom, 12:30 UK time, 8 hours. For you, Gelly, it's 4:30 Pacific. Okay. Well, it's better than flying, and also because we have to take into account people in Europe, because they will go from 1:30 to 9:30 at night. So it's designed from the west coast of the USA to basically out to Russia, really. That's where most people are who do this. So it'll be a global class. There'll be people from everywhere on the class. If you want to come, you can go to soulcontractreadingtraining.com. The deposit is $229 here, about 300 US, maybe a little different the exchange rate. Full exchange is about 600 UK pounds, about $800 if you want to come along. Any questions? Yeah. Just switch on your mic or message me, whatever. Kelly.
Yes, 4:30 in the morning. Sounds a little painful.
It used to be 2:30 in the morning. Normally it used to start at 10:30, so we try to be a little kinder, okay?
Well, 2:30, I could stay up till 2:30 and go through the whole, no.
Yeah.
But you explained it pretty well, so I don't necessarily know that I have, I don't know what I'm trying to ask, but I mean, again, so it's over a few days, and are you on the Zoom call that entire time from 4:30 to 12:30? Because, for instance, my daughter's waking up for school, right? So I got to get her up. I got to take her to school. I got to,
What we do is it's approximately 4 1.5-hour slots, okay? 4 1.5-hour slots. So we would do, you'd have an hour and a half, 20-minute break, hour and a half, 20-minute break, another hour and a half. Then we have about an hour and a quarter meal break. if you've got specific things like school runs or getting some kids up to school, we can talk about that beforehand and make some adjustments to try and accommodate that a bit within reason, as long as we discuss it beforehand, so we can mold around that. Okay, so we can handle that sort of thing. We have a lot of moms do this course,
Right.
so that's not a problem at all. Okay, so yeah, you're not sitting in front of a screen the whole day. You do get a break. I need a break, so yeah, so it's about 6 contact hours a day approximately, but it will vary depending on what processes we're doing. That's what I aim for. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Any other questions? Kelly, have answered all your questions? Or anyone else got any other questions?
Well, I have one other question, not about the training, but if anyone has training questions, I don't want to.
Got any other training questions? Marion had to leave. Okay. She said, thanks a lot. Thanks so much. Love you to hear this again. She'll be back. Anyone got any other training questions on the chat or on the mic? Okay, no. Oh yeah, so I'll just say, so Jose, so if you're wanting to learn this, we do a specific 2-day phonetics training where we cover 15 to 25 different languages. Where we do specifically cover Spanish because it's a major language in there. We actually just completed one, but that's available on video as a video training because we run it once a year, and that will give you the grounding to do Spanish. We figured out how to do all the main European languages, plus pretty much most languages. It teaches you how to do most languages, but it will give you the basis for Spanish. Spanish is pretty straightforward. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Then we worked out through working with clients what is actually the correct way to have the equivalent written English, like I did the equivalent written English to Russian there. It shows you how to do the equivalent written English for Spanish. Okay. So to get it exactly right for your clients. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
To answer that question for you, to make it viable for you to do this.
Right.
But you would need to learn this basic sort of the level 1 first, because so you got the 22 numbers. You've got to have better differentiate between them all without having to look at the manual. You've got to know the essence of them before you can do the phonetics training, because with the phonetics training, it's about, okay, we have 4 different variations of the name. How do we tell the difference?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I teach you how to do all that. Okay. So,
so then the sequence would be to do this training October 1st.
Yeah. Do this training first, and then because we only run the phonetics training once a year, there are actually two of them which are on video now. Then you can purchase that, then go through that, and there's a Facebook support group, and that's usually enough to get you going, so that you can actually get the Spanish done. The Spanish bit is pretty basic. You'd be fine.
Right. Yeah.
It's very basic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your English is good enough so that so that you will be able to understand the English sounds there, the way we match the English to the Spanish.
Right. Yeah. So I lived in the U.S. for 17 years.
Yeah. So you're fine. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a little trickier if you don't have enough English. Okay.
Right.
You'll just have pure Spanish sounds, but you've got enough English sounds that you better tell the difference. So.
Right.
I wouldn't see a problem for you at all. So.
Right. So I have one question about this training in October, David. How many seats will be available, or is it really open seats online?
We normally go to about 12, 16 max.
Okay.
Okay, because beyond that, we're towards 16.
Okay.
People are starting to book it now, so if you want a place, I would at least pay a deposit so you've got a place.
Right. Okay.
I only run it twice a year, you see. So.
Right.
But I think you'd be fine to do what you want to do with it. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, Kelly, what's your other question?
Okay, so this is one kind of a random question about the 6s. So just something I don't understand in the book. So it talks about, depending on where it is, in the chart, it says either 100% free will or not 100% free will. So I'm not sure what that actually means. You're trying to get free will, you don't want free will, you can't, I'm not, what does that mean?
Let me find it for you. Yeah. Let me get the manual out. I better read it to make sure I know the right thing, so I don't say the wrong thing to you. Hang on. Okay. This is a 6 in the. This is in the manual here. I think it's probably in the second level interpretations. Let me find that here. Which one's this one? Here. That's. I don't know. Oops. Gotta go here. Just gotta find it.
Or yeah, you can maybe just literally search for 100% free will, because I just literally wrote it out of the book. Like 100% free will.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Which one are you thinking of? All of it, or?
Yeah, I don't understand what it actually means. I don't understand it within the context that it's written. Like, are you don't have free will? Or are you trying to achieve free will?
Okay, in a specific aspect, in physical talents, if you had a 6-6 in a birth chart, you do have 100% free will. If it's in goals, it's more rigid. There's a specific thing you have to do. That's why we say not 100% free will. So if it's in goals here, physical goals or spiritual goals, the soul has a certain thing you want to do with those 6s, a certain focus. There's nothing you can do to get out of it. That's what it's saying. Okay. Whereas in talents, you can pretty much do anything you like with it in terms of creativity and focus. Here, there's only one thing, but you're only going to find out what it is by talking to the client. Okay.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. That's what I was. Yeah, first it just didn't. I couldn't quite get it. Thank you.
Okay. Connie says, October feels a long time away. I'm excited to learn more, learn and share. Thank you. Yeah. We run it every 6 months. So I've got lots of other workshops to teach. There's only so much room in the schedule. So that's why we have to spread it out like that. Okay. And the level 2 runs once a year, and level 3 once a year if there's enough demand for it. So if you're thinking of relationships and stuff like that, which probably for you, Jose, you'd be pretty interested in with your clients, because that'll be a lot of what people usually ask for a therapist. Or if you do a reading, they'll say, you do a birth reading, and they'll say, okay, now you've got me, explain my family, and what do we do about them? Because I'm desperate. That's a question that comes within a microsecond of giving a birth reading. All right. So,
and is that in level 2 when you actually figure out how the energies work?
Level 2, we look at all the dynamics of families and relationships, past relationships. We look at everything like that. So you can actually, resolve a whole family. Because usually if there's an issue with someone, it's usually a whole family dynamic you're dealing with. So maybe we should look at the whole dynamic and see what's triggering who and how, and then by intervening in the right place with the right recommendations, you can unlock the whole dynamic. Okay, because it's usually one individual. What's that?
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was saying the name overlays, is that in level 1 or level 2?
That's level 2. That's where you look at the effect of your own different names, like an English version of your name, the one you have now, on your current name. We see, is that any good for you? So it may be holding you up, but it might be okay, it might not. And then we look at optimizing people's names, which basically means tuning into them, working with them to get the name which will maximize the potential in their birth name. I might change my name from Nicolas Guy to Nicolas David Ngan in 2006, and my life's completely changed. I've gone from being in the middle of a divorce when I changed the name and feeling very disempowered, to having a global teaching business and having a much bigger community of people and interesting woman to date and all sorts of stuff like that happens. It's a completely different life I have because I changed my name, and it helped me do my work, basically.
Yeah, I loved hearing your story. I kept listening to your interview with Meredith over and over and over. So yeah. I loved it. And I've had 3 different names in my life, because where I was born, I went by Gelena, and then when we came to the United States, I was 8. Like, nobody here could pronounce my name, so people started calling me Helen. So I went by Helen all the way through end of high school. And then finally I was like, my name isn't Helen, and I came up with Gelly as the way that Americans could pronounce it. Yeah. And I've been going by Gelly most of my life, but now that I'm going into the spiritual work and listening to you, you know, and again, a lot of the stuff that you said in your interview with Meredith, I was like, wow, I really should be, especially doing the spiritual work. I feel like I should be going by Gelena.
Well, we look at that, and you can look in level 2, you understand what all the layers of name. I'll show you. I think we're talking about this. Let me find another presentation for you. This is a level 2 presentation. So,
sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm just like, I want to know everything.
It's all right. Let me just. Some of you guys want to seriously use this tool, so I'll explain how it works. So for level 2, for you guys who are therapists, facilitators who deal with relationships and people dynamics, this is the one for you. Okay. Mm-hmm. Basically, this is the birth name, which is what we were talking about just now in the Star of David. But when you examine, for example, you know, you've got a Russian name, Kelly, and this is your current name, which is an English name, English American name. We look at that, and there's 7 aspects across here, and they infuse. That's like a layer of icing on the cake. It's infusing a specific flavor into the cake, and what that is doing is changing the nature of your birth energy, so you can grow, or it can hinder you, or a bit of both. You get a mixture of things happening. So this is your ex-husband, and his job is to help you claim your power by divorcing him and have your kids, etc. So he will have a certain set of frequencies, some which were helpful and attractive, and others which would lead to you saying, well, I've had enough. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right, and this is, you say, your mom. And this could be previous partners. So we look at the whole, you know, we look at maybe up to 12 different names and overlays to see what are the core influences of icing, energy icing, which have changed you. Because you contract with those people before you meet up, before incarnating to meet them, to grow from. So we can look at the whole entire growth experience chronologically from very young age to the present day, because then you can see the patterns which will repeat and evolve. Then you can see, well, here's where you're likely to go, because people want to go know what's next. We can say, well, here's probably what's next. Okay, because there's 2 or 3 clear patterns where the soul's taking you. So that gives you even more information than you can get from the birth name of what the life path is about. Because the patterns are usually, I teach you how to, that's called pattern recognition. You're repeating patterns in relationships and different names we have. And that's very important information because it fleshes out the birth chart to take it makes it more 3-dimensional in the way you're heading in life. And you can analyze the whole family relationship dynamic, patterns with men, patterns with women, patterns with the family, and then you can get to what are the core things locking the whole thing up, which is why your client came, and we can show you how to unlock it all. It's really good for kids as well, for how to parent them consciously. Once a parent understands the family dynamic, they can change it. Even little changes will make a big change actually in the dynamic when you understand what's going on in the family. So, yeah, you can consciously relate then with everyone using level 2. That's what it actually does. So it means you're doing 80-90% of the right things, but 20% of the important things. Okay, rather than the shotgun approach, which most of us use. Just try something, but most of the time it doesn't work as well as we'd like. See? All right. Any other questions?
No, just a comment. This thing that you showed us is fascinating. My wife and I, we share 3 out of the 7 aspects of the chart. 3 of them are repeated on her chart and on mine. And we really want to get to the point where we can look at them. What in astrology we do is a synastry.
Yeah.
So this kind of process. And also recently I checked an overlay on my name because about 3 years ago when we met, I changed the first part of my first name.
Yeah.
It went from Jose to Josep, the Catalan way.
Yeah.
So Josep. So there's 1 letter added and 2 different sounds. And I did the chart, and it totally shows exactly the moment in life where I am now, and the kind of a spiritual oriented work that I'm doing is just right there. And it was fascinating. It was even a moving experience. It deeply resonated in me. And it was interesting also to see how, although the numbers were different, some numbers, most of them were different from the basic chart, everything made sense.
Yeah, well, each layer of icing of different names adds something more, because you can only stick so many numbers in 7 aspects. But if you have 14 or 21, 14 aspects, you've got your birth chart and you've got an overlay, which may change over time. It's like yours has Gally and yours has Jose, because you went to an English-speaking country as well. Okay, so the variety changes. So you get a whole bunch of stuff which you couldn't have got otherwise.
Right.
That's part of the reason for moving around countries as well. So you're getting a different frequency coming at you.
Right.
You see, all together. Because your souls knew when you were going to go, like you went to America, you both went to America. There's a reason for it in a specific timing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, for doing, you see.
Yeah.
Not just to America, but to Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
Sedona. Like all the woo-woo people live here.
Yep, they sure do. Okay. Any final questions, anybody? I think Sarah had to go. She said it was wonderful and she enjoyed it. Okay. All right. So if you have any other questions, just you can email me. You've got my email address there on the registration, or we can chat, whatever you're interested in the training. So I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, no, this was amazing. Thank you. Seriously, thank you for everything. Thank you for being you. I've been following you from the moment I saw your face pop up on Gaia. And it was honestly, it was a pleasure to actually speak with you. So thank you.
Okay.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Jose. Do you watch a conscious parenting show on Gaia, Raising a Conscious Child?
That's the one that that was the first one I watched, because that's what I thought my attention. And then when I saw you on that, I'm like, wait, who is this guy? And what is he talking about? And that's when I went down the rabbit hole. But the first one that caught my eye was conscious parenting, because that's what I try to raise my daughter as a, very consciously. Who is she? What is she here to do? What are her talents? How do I guide her? So I'm always seeking that information.
Okay, good. Jose, you had another question. Were you going to say something?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, if there's no more questions, we'll go. Okay. Thank you, everybody. The video will be out in a day or two once I process it. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.